So, where were we? We're at Act 3. The music in this movie is just so fucking good. I think that Nacho song is fucking amazing. I think we should play it in the podcast for people to hear if they haven't seen the movie, because it's so good. Nacho, Nacho, Nacho. It's so good.
I think there is probably some like fair use. What's it? The term I'm looking for, where you're like talking about something cultural, where you can probably share it. Like on YouTube, they do this a lot. So I think you could probably add it in if you want, just a little bit, so people can have a listen.
Well, I only say because we're about to hit another really great musical number, which there is some build up to it, though, in all fairness. So the beginning of Act 3 is when we finally get Ram's backstory that you were talking about earlier with his dad. And we get, we get his backstory is revealed, and we get this recurring theme of the value of a bullet come up again. And it's this monologue that's sort of given the fun, and watching someone getting beaten to death is what sort of inspired Ram's father to lead a rebellion, and Ram sort of follows in his steed. But then they get ambushed by the British, and what an origin for a character, eh? So you've got Dad fucking 360 no scoping all of these motherfuckers, and then gets shot, and Ram, brings him the bullets, and then has to take over, shooting all the British, even watching his mother and brother get shot. It's like load, aim, shoot. It's fucking amazing. It's fucking great, right?
I forgot that his other family got shot as well, not just his dad.
Yeah. He literally watches his whole family die, and then he has to explode his dad. And what an origin. What an origin for Ram. And you're like, okay, no wonder you're ruthless. No wonder you have put, because he has been beating the shit out of his own people to work his way up the British ladder. So, he's been called a traitor many times throughout this film. And now you can see just why he's had to be so ruthless. And it provides it's a nice bit of levity, because up until this point he's been so likable, and he's such an asshole. Like I feel betrayed watching him, because he switches on a dime. He just becomes such an asshole, and you're like, but then you see his origin, and you're like, okay, that's why you're so ruthless, and that's why he wants to give everyone a weapon. Give everyone a weapon and see the British run away, or something like that was the line. If we all had a weapon, that's what it was. It says, see what one Indian with a gun can do, can make all of these British people back off. Imagine if we all had one. They'd all leave. They'd go home. And it's so heavy. It's so heavy. But now we have, and then we get, we flash back to the present, or I say the present, but we flash back to the rest of the story, or flash forward to the rest of the story anyway, and Beam is getting whipped to shit. And we get Milena being a sadistic bitch.
With the whip.
With the whip, yeah. And then she's like, hang on a minute, use Freddy Krueger's whip. Brutal. But this is it. He takes such a beating, but his Gond tribe powers prevent him from kneeling to the British. Good for you, Beam. He just sings through the pain. The music, I love this song. I don't know about you. Korambima, Korambim. It's so good. It's so good. Yeah, really brutal scene. Really brutal scene. and India fights back like when he drops, when they raise him up, and then India fights back after his martyrdom, and then everyone just storms the British.
It's like the emotional power of it
Yeah.
overpowers everybody else, including Ram. Yeah.
So, besides the Freddy Krueger whip, do you like this scene?
Uh yeah,
I love it.
yeah. I think you're very emotional about this film. This film has struck a chord with you, hasn't it?
I
A
fucking
strong
love this
chord.
movie. I wish I've got a note here somewhere. I can't remember where I wrote it, but oh no, here it is. I would love to play I would love to play a white cunt in one of these movies. I really would, because you know what, I would try and make it like number one. I feel like even I can be a better actor than these cunts, and number two, like oh yeah, I would love to do it. It just looks like so much fun.
Can I tell you my favorite white cunt moment in this film?
I'll
It's
go
not
on
even
then.
a piece of dialogue. You must have probably caught this as well. I thought it was really funny. Uh, so remember the British guy Scott? He's
Yeah.
driving somewhere. I can't remember now exactly where he's going.
Is this the slow motion bit?
Where yeah, the car hits something. He shoots up in the air without moving any other part of his body, up in the air, and then shoots. And like it just looks so
Yeah.
funny. It just looks
It's so,
so.
it's amazing, isn't it? It's such a trailer moment. Uh, like, yeah. Do I recognize that actor? I feel like I've
His
seen him in something.
his name I saw is Ray Stevenson.
Yeah,
Uh,
that rings even more of a bell.
it made me think of what's his name? Ray Winstone, but I don't know why. It just sounds like similar ring. But
Hmm.
I don't know if actually I have seen him in anything.
I
He's
think I
from Northern
have.
Ireland.
I
He's
really
almost
recognize him.
60.
I really recognize him. I'm sure I've seen him in something. Oh,
Ah, he was in the other guys.
the other guys, really? Oh
That's
yeah,
one of the bad guys.
he's the bloody. Oh yeah. I remember him in the other guys. Yeah, it really has struck a chord with me. This. Uh, so yeah, so like I don't know, I don't even know the action. I know it's corny. Like I know that slow motion scene with Scott is corny, but I fucking love it because we hadn't actually seen the threat of Scott up until this point. Like we know the threat of Scott because we know that he's like the main British guy, but we've not actually seen him in any action, and we've seen Ram and we've seen Beam kicking ass, even injured. They're kicking ass, and we've not seen Scott be like a physical threat. But in this scene, we do get a sense that he can handle himself, that he can uh, be a physical threat to these sort of larger than life characters that seem to be able to do anything.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, even injured, they're fucking badass. We don't. I don't even think we see Scott injured at one point in the film, except maybe at the very, very end.
Ah, yes, when he dies.
Yeah, but that's it. He's
Yeah.
about to die, so you don't really blame him for being injured. Oh yeah, so at this point, Ram, yeah, because that's it. Yeah, Governor Scott realizes that Ram is like playing both sides, right? That's that scene, and now Ram gets sort of captured, and he's like getting beaten, and even after getting beaten, he's got great hair.
Mm.
Yeah, because they're about to bust Beam out, aren't they? They're about to bust Beam out of that truck, and then you've got that lockpick with the power of being a plot point. He's got plot armor, that lockpick. It could just land in his hand without him even knowing that it's coming.
Yeah, and then we have Rama going to prison, and he's kept in that little a box under the ground. And then we finally get to our
Well, yeah,
finale.
well, that's it. He gets kept in the box, but they break his legs and he does his little prison workout. So even
Yeah,
like with broken legs, he's like, fuck it. I am staying in shape because, You never know. Beam might come. But yeah, Beam. Well, before Beam finds him, he finds Sita first. Again, just coincidence after coincidence in this film. But
It
yeah,
probably didn't need to happen. I don't know. Could that could have probably
well,
been a bit
well,
quicker.
Beam did need to find out that Ram had other motives, and he needed to find out that he wasn't a traitor. Traitor, you know, he did what he needed to do for the greater good.
True.
You know, so we needed him to discover that, but in such a convenient way is a little bit jarring. But yes, quite right. The climax is now set, and Beam goes to bust him out in the best escape scene in movie history, where he just rips the fucking door off. I fucking love it. It's fucking great. And then he goes full on Mortal Kombat mode,
Ah,
Goro mode.
I just realized something. So now you mentioned that his legs were broken.
Yeah,
Right. That's why the whole thing about him being on the shoulders is a thing. Because
yeah.
actually, I think the pitch meeting guy says something about that, like, joked as if that supposed to make them like stronger. That he's on, that they're together like this. But
Well,
actually, it's
it
because his
was
legs
foreshadowed.
are messed
Yeah,
up. That's why.
so Ram's legs are messed up, and it's foreshadowed earlier in the film.
Yeah.
So like it's sort of it's a metaphor for their friendship, that they can pick each other up when their legs don't work.
Yeah.
The end of that metaphor tails off, doesn't it? They can pick each other up when their legs don't work, you know. And also, we actually get them banging on the floor, which is good. You know, that relieves some sexual tension. They literally floor bang is my note. They bang on the floor. You know what I mean?
I must have missed that bit.
No, when that's how they find each other, by floor bang.
Oh, like that. When you
Yeah,
said floor banging, I was thinking
yeah,
of something very different.
of course. That's what I'm saying. They release the sexual tension by banging on the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah, they banged on the floor. They needed to. So yeah, so they go like full on like Power Ranger mode by sort of joining together, like Megatron. Not Megatron. Is it Megatron?
I
What's
don't
what's the
remember
robot?
anymore.
Megazord. Yeah. So they
Ah,
go Megazord mode. Best friend powers activate, and they go like forearm, like giant forearm man. And funnily enough, it's far more cool and badass than it sounds. Like when you think about what you're watching, you're like, this shouldn't be cool, and somehow it's one of the coolest sequences in the film. In a movie this cool, it's kind of crazy how cool this scene is, because we got they Spider-Man up a bird's nest by working together. That's kind of cool. They do like a
mm-hmm.
they do a flippy somersault back kick. That's super cool. Um, but then when Ram gets a hold of guns, and then Beam is cocking the guns for him while he's shooting, it's so fucking cool. It's so fucking cool. I will not have anything bad said about this scene.
I think you are literally coming in your pants when you're talking about this
I
film,
am.
aren't you?
I really literally sat in a mess of my own juices. And you know what? I really cheer every single time an Englishman dies in this movie.
Yeah, me too. Yeah,
It
you prick. Fucking
it's like,
die.
yeah, you fucking deserve it, you prick. But then we I know it's great. But then we go to the statue of Shiva, or Shivu. How do you pronounce it? Shiva? I think it's Shiva. And Beam wraps Ram up and is going to make a final stand to defend Ram. But then Ram is imbued with the powers of Shiva, and he becomes Hawkeye.
Basically, yeah, he becomes Indian Hawkeye.
We had Spider-Man literally in the previous scene, and now we get Hawkeye. And I mean, you know what? We could even say that Beam goes Hulk mode when he pulls that door off, and he picks up a motorcycle. We forgot that he literally
Yeah.
throws a motorcycle around like it's fucking nothing. Yeah, it's kind of mental how much shit goes down that's like Avengers in this. So we get Hawkeye, and we have fire and water again. We got the bow and arrows on fire, and he's launching grenades, and also Beam is attacking people from underwater. Pretty fucking cool. More fire and water elements there. I like that. We get to see how the fire and water work together this time, which I'm a sucker for that sort of shit. And then we even get a fucking ram shoot someone. It doesn't hit them, so he has to go run up to the arrow and kick it even further into the tree, so it hits the guy in the head. It's fucking great, so fucking cool. Although I did notice, I think they recycle the same animation for an arrow about 3 times in this sequence. I'm pretty sure it's the exact same animation, which when I notice stuff like that just comes across as lazy. Like when I think of like recycled animation, I think of like old Scooby-Doo cartoons where budgets were low and they just had to have like the same, few frames walking past like a wall and then just have it on loop and then just have the actors speak over the top. When I see that, it just rings cheap to me when I see reused special effects. I mean, to be fair though, even Disney are guilty of it. There's a shot in The Sword and the Stone that's the exact same shot in Robin Hood, I think, and all they do is just change the skins of the actor. If you want to, like, we can call
I've
it
heard
skin.
of this. Yeah, this thing with Disney, it's not just that they've sometimes it's not just the coloring that they've changed, but like basically they take the models of certain animations and just change them slightly. Like
Yeah.
I don't know, a group of birds could be a group of squirrels or whatever. Like they changed how they look slightly, but keep the model, the animation that they will then follow the same or something like this. They did a lot of that, especially
Mm.
I think in the 80s, and then I think after when CGI started coming along, they started working with Pixar. I think that's finally when they stopped doing that shit. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I'm sure there's more examples than the one. I only know the one example, but I'm sure there are plenty more. But I suppose as a company as big as Disney, it's bound to happen. I mean, you obviously you notice like when they recycle the same scream in movies, and you're like, oh, I've heard the exact same tone of a scream in a different movie, and
Mhm.
it's just some random character screaming, maybe not, maybe just background screaming, but like it's noticeable when you notice it. It's like, yeah, I've heard that in a different movie, and it's like, oh, the production company just must own that sound effect. So they're like, well, just squeeze because we paid for it. We may as well squeeze everything we can get out of it. And it's sort of world breaking when you get reminded that you're watching a movie. Although I suppose this film doesn't suffer from that. You don't
Mm.
you know you're watching a movie with this. There's no pretending to be realistic at all. They're not interested in realism. But it is so. Oh, I love this movie so much. Seriously, Craig. I mean, look, we're basically at the end of the movie now, and then it's like, okay, now, like everyone's dead. Governor Scott's alive, and now Beam and Ram are there, and it's like, right, I'm strapped in. Kill this motherfucker and make it slow. I want to see it slow motion. Kill this motherfucker, please. And they do. I love it. The Ram holds the bullet, and we finally get this payoff
How
to the
much a bullet
value.
is worth?
Mm. And I like that Ram gives it to Beam to do. He doesn't even need to be the one to pull the trigger. He just know he needs to be the one holding the bullet. This bullet has come a long way to meet you, sort of thing. I love it. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. I love it. It's cheesy as fuck, and I fucking love it. I fucking love this movie. 10 out of 10. I mean, look, we're nearly at the end of the movie. I think we got the final dance number to talk about, um, which is probably my least favorite moment of the film. And we've got like, revolution time. We're talking about revolution is coming. Essentially, fuck the English is the message there. Um, Mally returns to the Gondis, and the mum is still alive, by the way. Did you notice that?
Hmm.
Because in that opening scene, it looked like they just fucking cracked her skull open. It didn't look
I
like it survived that.
Yeah,
And
I
it looked like
think there was. Didn't we see her a second time before the end? I think there might have
I
been
did,
something.
if we did, I didn't notice it or pick up on it because I was really surprised to see the mum still alive. I was like, oh shit, like mum's still alive. It's literally everyone gets a happy ending except the
Hmm.
English. And I didn't. I thought it was interesting that the director is prominently featured in the final dance number.
Oh, was he there? I didn't even know what he looked like
Oh, do you know?
until
Do you,
today, to be
do you,
honest.
oh no, no. In all fairness, I sort of picked up on it straight away because there's just some random bearded, like white bearded guy in the Bollywood dance, not Bollywood, Tollywood dance number at the end that they all make a big deal out of, and it's like, well, we haven't seen this guy in the whole movie. He must be the director. It sort of reminded me of like because when I used to do like theatre at school because when I was doing drama school and stuff. So when we did theatre, like your final showstopper, you do your number and then you sort of let the song sort of linger on a bit, and you're sort of bringing people out and everyone's doing a bow, and you very often would bring the director out and they would bow. So it's like the first time you get to see who put everything, put all of this together, and then you
Hmm.
you you finish the dance number, and then you get off stage. So it just sort of reminded me of sort of you know just typical musicals on stage. How everyone comes out and takes a bow. I like that.
Hmm.
I like that. But that's pretty much it. Um, that's the whole movie. I've got some notes about the real people though that this movie's based on.
Go on.
So, Kumram Beam, he was a revolution leader. He was a member of the Gondis. He was a member of the Gond tribe. That is true. Um, and the Gondis were relocated so many times because of British occupation. Not that the British were relocating them, just they had to relocate because of various British, goings on. So, and they were pretty passive people. So, they just sort of moved on and tried to get on with their lives. Um, and they had to like relocate loads of times. So they actually didn't live where they came from, essentially, because of the British, or don't anymore, at least. Or maybe they've gone home. I'm not too sure. Cumrun Beam was eventually shot by police. So they did get their man. And so he was then integrated into Telugu folklore songs. And he was sort of spoken about as this rebel leader that sort of like his death sort of inspired a lot of the rebellion. Um, and then he's like sort of slowly began to be recognized by the government by sort of erecting statues of him and installations. They even spent $4.3 million on a museum dedicated to him.
Hmm.
So this guy's a fucking big deal. Big fucking deal. And he really was like a man of nature. He was tribal.
Hmm.
Um, yeah,
Does he ride a motorbike?
I mean, I think there was some creative liberties taken, um, for sure. But you know what? Fuck it. Sure, he could ride a bike. Why not? Why not? And do you want to know a little bit about Alluri Sitrama Raju?
Go on.
So he used to run raids of like police stations and stuff, and they would steal weapons. And he would be given because obviously his revolution didn't have anything in the way of firearms, so they were like raiding police stations, taking weapons, and then he'd leave a note basically coaxing the British to just try and stop him. This is all the weapons I've taken. Are you sure you want to fuck with me? Basically, you know the artillery I'm packing now. Are you sure you don't want to fucking? You sure you want to rumble? Um, Now I love this value of a bullet because here's some interesting trivia, and I think this is relating to the value of the bullet in the movie. It took 2 years and millions of pounds for the British to eventually kill Sitrama Raju. It cost a lot of resources to get this guy. And I think they did eventually like strap him to a tree and he was shot. But it was a huge financial undertaking to deal with this guy. I think that's obviously inclusive of all the weapons he stole as well. Like, not just resources invested in killing him, but also the money they lost with him being alive as well. So I think it's all in all, but it was millions of pounds. Millions of pounds. I think even more than the museum that Beam got. I think it costs more to kill Raju than to have a museum of Beam, which is mad. At least the British paid for that, though. And yeah, so my note here: Sita in real life is his sister.
Aha. Okay.
So, but again, in the flashback, I thought like it looks like it's his sister, but I'm sure in the dialogue they refer to each other as romantically involved. So I don't know. I mean, look. In all fairness, I don't want to make any assumptions. So I don't really know if there's just something lost in translation or if there's something a bit sketchy going on. I don't really know. But anyway, carrying on about Sitrama Raju, he spent a lot of time with a lot of different tribes. So he's not known for any one tribe in particular. He spent a lot of time with different tribes trying to understand how the British were affecting their hardships. Like he really wanted to get it because he wanted to be a fighter for everyone. But as a result of that, most of the people that followed him were tribal men and women. He led the Rampa Rebellion in 1922, and he also fought against the Madras Forest Act that the British put into place that prevented like traditional agriculture. So everyone basically had to change because the British said they had to. And it was like, "Oi, fuck off. That we've been doing this for thousands of years. You just come along and tell us what to do and what not to do." So he fought against that.
And was he ever in the military?
No. Or at least if he was, I can't find anything about it. I was looking for that. I was like, oh, did he infiltrate the British? No, nothing like that. So, or maybe that it is, and I can't find anything. But what I can find about this Rampa rebellion, he was leading the tribal guys to rise against the British with guerrilla tactics. He introduced guerrilla tactics to these guys, and they thought he was actually imbued with magical powers, probably because he had modern technology or just guns available to him. But you can see why his sort of power level is the way it is in RRR if he is sort of imbued with power in like the folklore's told about him. So it sort of makes sense. Yeah, the thing is, it sort of makes sense when you look at these two real guys. It makes sense why their power level is the way it is in the movie. Like they are sort of, at least the stories that these characters have created over the many years since they died, justifies this power level. Like they have been seen as sort of larger than normal men. They are, and they're depicted as such in the movie. They're framed like giants.
Yeah. Immortalized martyrs.
Yeah, exactly. And that's pretty much RRR. There
is one last thing, by the way.
Go on.
One film from China that this really reminds me of. It was in my notes and I kept forgetting to mention it. Called The Opium War, which came out in 1997, the same year Hong Kong handed over was handed over back to China. And it's very interesting. It's a very, I think there's even someone who plays Queen Victoria. Yeah, I see it here. It's a whole thing about how basically it's an anti-British film, with also using some British actors in the film. And yeah, it's a similar kind of thing. I haven't seen it. I just know of it, and it's all about how the how Hong Kong basically became part of China, which is through the Opium War,
Oh,
because the British were selling opium to the Chinese. The Chinese said, "No, don't sell opium to us." So the
yeah.
British started a war, beat the crap out of the Chinese, made the Chinese pay for the war, and took Hong Kong. So it's really fucked up. But I think in the
Yeah.
film, some other, I'm not sure how it ends, but I think it's a different ending than what really happened. Like the Chinese managed to fight back and don't lose the war. I'm not sure, but yeah, it's
Well,
interesting.
then, are we watching Opium Wars next then?
Maybe we'll see.
We'll
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 see.
discuss it. We haven't set on the next one yet. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, fair enough. I mean, it's sort of. I mean, I mentioned Inglorious Bastards earlier, like this sort of adapted history, this sort of fantastical history. I suppose. But Quentin's been doing it a lot recently, hasn't he? With Django and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood as well.
Hmm.
This sort of like alternate history. What if? Like because Kumran Beam and Sitrama Raju, they've never met in real life. Like they were not best friends. They didn't meet under a bridge, but they did have the same fight. They did have the same cause. And this is like what would happen if they did exist at the same time, but clearly for whatever reason they never crossed paths. Um, so it is like a what if these two guys actually did meet and what would have happened. They would have been best friends and worst enemies and then best friends again. This is what Batman versus Superman should have been.
Yeah.
This movie is Batman v Superman without costumes.
I also had one note, by the way. This film was much more fun to watch than the Justice League.
Oh, infinitely more fun. Infinitely more fun. For me, well, look, should we? We're done with the film now. Should we give it like we should wrap up our final thoughts and give it a rating? Uh,
Well, it's hard. I don't know. I think you're probably gonna rate it higher than I am. Uh,
no
but I
doubt.
don't. I don't know. I'm very stingy when it comes. I don't want to give away all my 10 points. I'll share them amongst
Well,
other things that I'll
so
spend
what?
them on. I don't know.
So what? So you're considering a 10 for this, but you're choosing not to.
No, no.
Well, then
I don't know
why?
what I'm
What?
considering.
What are you considering a 9 then?
Well, it's difficult to like. In what way are we rating it? Because we did rate some of the other films in different kind of
All right.
ways.
So do you want to
But
rate this? How many R's out of 3 do you give this? 3 R's,
oh,
right?
it's
It's
3 hours. It can't be
it,
less.
it's definitely 3 R's out of 3 for sure. Um, I I mean, look for me. Yeah, I mean, look, I'll break cover first. Um, this is a 10.
I
This is
knew
a
you were
10.
gonna say 10.
I fucking love this movie. I think in all aspects of it, it's as perfect a film as I've seen in a long time. It's exactly
Yeah.
what it needs to be, even down to the bad acting from the white people. It's honest. It's like Kung Fury as well. Like we've said all of these films, and then yeah, just sprinkle Kung Fury in there, or Hobo with a Shotgun in there. Like there's that sort of level of mental shit in this movie. It's a cartoon. I love it. 10 out of
Mm.
10. 3 R's out of 3. 10 10 out of 10 IMDb rating. I'd give it 102 Nick Cages for sure. Gets 102 Nick Cages, maybe 103. What about you? I mean, like I can speak no higher for this film. I really like this film. When I first watched the film, I immediately told you this has got to be a podcast episode, and I will happily watch it again. I think we
Yeah.
waited a little bit, and then you watched it. You were, yeah, it's fucking great. But yeah, go on. Give me your rating. Give me your rating. I want to know.
Out of 10,
Out of 10, typical
uh,
IMDb rating. Remember, even The Godfather, we rated The Godfather in the nines, but
yeah.
I think even IMDb rates Godfather Part 2 as like a 9.4. So, according to IMDb, there's never been a 10 out of 10 movie.
No, they shouldn't really be. How can it be completely perfect?
There is a
Uh,
fucking 10 out of 10 movie, and it's called RRR. This is the this is the benchmark that everyone's got to meet.
okay, I guess I would probably put it on either 8 to a 9, I guess. But more because there's
Is
still
it
some
close?
things I have issue with, but
Is it closer to an 8 or a 9 for you?
probably to a 9. I'm thinking on the sense of influence, sense of influence. What am I trying to say? Out of influence, I think it's going to inspire a lot more films, not just in India,
Yeah,
potentially in other countries as well that
agreed.
probably were also colonized. And also just because like it's an interesting turn because I'm so used to when I've seen films from India, uh, the dancing and the singing takes center stage. There's no
Mm.
romance in this film. Well, there's a bit of romance, but Bahim doesn't get the girl in the end. It's kind of just a side thing that's happening. He's more
There is a
focused on everything
romance.
else.
There is a romance, but it's a bromance.
Yeah, it's a romance. So it's not your typical film from India. The action is very entertaining. There is a bit of silliness that people will pick up on, but because it's happened so quickly and it's so entertaining, you don't
It do,
really like
well, this
think
it
of it too
doesn't work.
much.
Yeah, it doesn't work as a. It's not a detriment to the film. If anything, it just
Yeah,
adds to its charm.
because if this was a serious film, if this was a drama and it had
Mm.
this level of holes
It'd be
in the plot,
ridiculous.
or you would like fuck off, this is
Yeah,
fucking stupid, you can't take it seriously. But this film, because of the way that it's done, you don't mind those things. It's like
yeah.
uh,
It's a really unique personality for a film. And maybe that's also born out of how unseasoned a Bollywood or Indian cinema in general we're not very seasoned watchers of these films, but I feel like this film it does have a very unique personality.
hmm,
It really stands out to me amongst cinema in general. It's a really different film for me. I think we should have a look at this director's other work for the pod. Maybe it's worth doing the next episode. We'll talk about it, maybe not, but at some point we should do some more SS Rajamouli. I think, yeah, Rajamouli, something like that. Yeah, I think we should
yeah,
do him more.
definitely we can talk about it.
All right. So 8 out of 9. How many Nick Cages are you going to give it? It deserves a few.
It deserves a few. This is you could sacrifice Nick Cage at least 20, 30 times for this film. It's
Oh, Craig.
the craziness of it.
I think it should have been Nick Cage playing English as General
Oh,
Scott.
that would have been the best. That would
That
have
would have
been
been
the best.
amazing. Could you imagine if Nick Cage was in this movie?
It would be
Oh,
crazy, yeah.
all right, dude. I think that's RRR all done. Yeah. Final thoughts.
Uh, Go watch it, people, if you haven't. It's a mental film, and it might be one of the biggest international films, like outside Hollywood, that you'll see for quite a while, and it could be a big inspiration for a ton of other stuff. Uh, it's not your typical film from India, and it's super entertaining. So definitely watch it.
And you know what's weird about that is I still feel like you're underselling it.
You
uh,
really like this film.
I love this film. I literally adore this film. I think it's great. I really, really love it. I think, funny enough, I think it's one of the best films of the year. If you're into, romantic comedies, there's something here for you. If you like musicals, definitely there's something here for you. If you like action movies, there's something here for you. If you like just a really well told story, there's something here for you. If you like historical dramas, there's something here for you. So, like, this film walks so many different worlds. Movies that we're used to don't normally balance stuff like this, but this film somehow has a very good sense of its own tone, and it balances it all out beautifully. I think it's close to a perfect film, if not perfect.
You're really bigging
It's
it up.
brilliant. I really am. I really am. I think this film is, and it's gonna. I think it's an absolute travesty that some people will not watch this movie just because it's a 3 hour Indian musical. And I get that. I understand that it's not the sort of thing that people are used to that aren't in India. However, I think it's, you'll be doing yourself a massive disservice if you let that stop you watching this movie. That's how much I like this film. It'll
Yeah.
change your taste in cinema. That's how good this film is. Right. There you go. There you go. That's RRR. Thank you, one and all, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to Tobias and Craig on Film Shrapnel. Stay
Thank you so
tuned.
much.
Thank you so much. Keep up to date on the latest. Go to our Facebook page or whatever other social media page we can be asked to figure out by the time this goes out. Please do. Please do. Them clicks mean something. Those listens matter. So please consume us. All right. Craig, much love, man. Thanks for coming out. I always love talking to you about movies, but this one especially I've really enjoyed watching.
I know. I know too well.
Well, hopefully soon you'll show me a film that I can get as into as I have with RRR. Because I mean, like, I think you came close with Godfather, but this one just hits all my buttons. All right.
Okay.
Have a lovely week. We will see you in the next episode. We haven't quite decided yet, but keep up to date on social media and we will let you know. Peace out.
All right. Bye-bye. Peace out, guys. Knees.
Bye.
Shrapnel.